Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I want to talk about series that I want to finish. So I have previously done videos on series that I have not yet started that I want to start, series that I have started and want to catch up on because they are not yet concluded series, and this is about series that I have started that I want to finish because they are finished series. So I will link those other videos on the screen throughout this video if you want to check those out as well. The first series is The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. I love this series. It's an adult fantasy series, and our main character of Elisa is one of my favorite female characters in fiction. She is a queen princess who is swept away and kept safe and now is returning to her kingdom, and there's a lot of things going on, and she has a really interesting dynamic with the enemy who is another queen. And this setting I can't really talk about in detail with this first book because it changes a lot, but I also really like what this does with what kind of setting it is exactly, which I know is very vague, but it has to be. I still have the finale to read, which I heard is polarizing, but I have the sense that I'll like it because I tend to like polarizing finales, so I'm excited to wrap it up. Then we have the Kingdom on Fire trilogy, the first book being A Shadow Bright and Burning. I recently read the second book in this series, and this is a series that is so underrated, so I'm going to talk about it more in like underrated series videos that I plan on making in the future, but this is a world that's a Victorian London, alternate Victorian London, in which they are battling these magical abominations that have come from a different dimension. And in this world there are sorcerers, magicians, and witches, and they all have different kinds of powers. The sorcerers are the people in power right now and are part of like the government, but they have exiled and kind of eradicated the witches and the magicians for a particular reason, which you can argue is justified or not, but our main character is supposed to be the chosen one, a female sorcerer, when there are not any female sorcerers, and she finds out what exactly that means, and it's a chosen one story, but not really, which is talked about on the synopsis, so that's not really a spoiler. But I find this world so interesting. I love the characters. There are so many things that would appeal to so many different people in this. There's fae, there's a lot of like dark themes, there's a lot of ships in here, but I don't mind it. Some people might, so just be warned if you're not into like love squares, you're probably not gonna be into this. I'm not necessarily into them, but I just kind of like forgive it in this case because I feel like it serves a purpose. And I love so many things about it. The magic is so cool because all of the different magic users have different kinds of abilities. I think I like the magicians the most, but who knows. And I just really am looking forward to how this series concludes. The series does have its faults. So far it's been like a 4-star series. I do really love it though, and I think about it a lot. But it does have some faults, so I'm really excited for Jessica Cluis's like future work because I feel like for a debut series this is amazing, and I'm really intrigued about what she comes up with in the future. But I want to finish out this series. The last book recently came out. Then we have the book of the Ancestor Series by Mark Lawrence, the last book being Holy Sister. This book I have started, but I've been putting off for a number of reasons. One, I think there's a short story that I need to read that comes between the second book and the third book that typically you wouldn't think you'd have to read, but people have told me that you should. So I do want to do that. And then I just don't want it to end, so I keep not listening to my audiobook. I keep putting it off. I thought I was going to read it this month, but I don't know, because I just keep putting it off. I just don't want it to end. But this is about a magical convent of magical assassin nuns, and it follows our main character of Nona throughout her childhood up into adulthood as becoming one of these magical assassin nuns, and it's so good. It's an adult fantasy series. It's grimdark. It's grim and it's dark, so just be aware of that, but I love this series and can't wait to finish it, even though I don't want to finish it because I don't want it to be over. Then we have the Stray series by Rachel Vincent. This is a adult urban fantasy series that follows werecats, I believe, werepanthers specifically, I think, werecats. But I loved this first book, even though it has a lot of like urban fantasy tropes and some things that are problematic, because a lot of urban fantasy is very problematic. But I read the second book like years ago, didn't like it, and it just like not continued with the series, but I own 4 out of the, I believe, 5 books in the series, and I can read them really quickly, so I just kind of want to continue and finish it. So I plan to, and I think I'm finally getting the bad taste in my mouth that I had from the second book out of my system after like 3 years, so I'm starting to kind of feel like I might want to continue this series sooner rather than later and finish it up. Then we have the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden, the first book being The Bear and the Nightingale. This is the second book, and this is a Russian and Eastern European folklore inspired fantasy series It follows, it's like a Death in the Maiden type story in a lot of ways, but it really follows our main character and how she grows up. You follow her from childhood all the way up into adulthood, and how she just doesn't feel like she fits in her small town, and she kind of almost becomes this like go-between between the magical world and the real world. She's sort of this person that can kind of toe both lines. So I really love it, and I really love the setting, but I like reading these books in winter because they are set in a winter climate and setting and everything. So I think I will finish up this series sometime in winter 2019. Then we have the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chima. I've only read this first book, The Demon King, and although it was a 3-star read for me, I still remember a lot of it, and I do think the characters are going to develop and the plots are going to develop in a way that I'm really going to like. There's a lot of POVs in this story, and one thing that I keep coming back to about this story, because it's hard to find, is there's a princess and the guard romance going on. I don't know if that's going to be like the endgame romance, but I hope it is, and I have a lot of feelings about how this could really develop, and I've heard really good things about this series overall. So it's a series that I've wanted to read and continue to read since starting BookTube, really, and just haven't got around to reading the second book in the series. But I believe this is a 5-book series, and I've heard nothing but good things about it, so it's time to jump back into it. Then we have the Queen's Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner. This is a series that I believe was finished and then might have also gotten more books added onto it. I can't quite keep track, but this is another classic YA fantasy series, and the books are fairly short, but I heard that it kind of reads more mature because classic YA tends to kind of read a little more mature than some of the current YA, although current YA is also kind of going in that direction, but for a while it wasn't. So anyway, this is a series that I really want to catch up on. It apparently is inspired by ancient Greek mythology and culture and such, so I definitely want to catch up on it and finish it because it is a concluded series. Then we have the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is the first in her series of trilogies that take place within her universe. It's sort of like Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. All of his books take place within the Cosmere. All of these trilogies take place within her universe, and I really want to get to the next books and series within this universe, which I talked about in my other video. So I definitely want to finish this up. And this book, as of the filming of this video, which I'm filming in May, I don't know when it's actually going to get posted, but this book was voted on by my Patreon supporters for a book that I will be reading this month or next month. It's kind of depends on when I get to it, sort of thing, but this is a chunker. And it follows our main character of Fitz, who we see in the first book as a kid and gets raised into, like, I think his mid-teens, but he is a illegitimate child of the king or one of the princes or something, I think prince, and he gets trained to be an assassin, and he also has some different magical abilities that are frowned upon within this society. So he is a character that comes back around a lot within Robin Hobb's world, so every other series basically within her universe follows him. So even though I want to get to some of those other middle series a lot, I do still want to, like, know him and how he's affecting things throughout, and that the other, you know, like, grow with him throughout his whole life. I love stories like that. So I'm excited to be continuing this, even though I didn't love the first book. I liked it, but I do want to finish up this trilogy to get on to the rest of it. Then we have the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell. This is an adult fantasy series that is sort of like Three Musketeers-y, and I really enjoyed this first book. It was a 3-star read for me again, but just, I was intrigued by it and by these characters with, like, a strict moral code, but that code is not necessarily lawful good all the time. So I'm intrigued as this series develops and some of the things I'll learn and the people that I'll get introduced to and everything. It's just fun. It's kind of like a found family, band of friends type thing going around. So I am very intrigued by this series. I've heard great things. Shay from Shay Adventures talks about it a lot, so I do want to finish up this series as well. And lastly, we have the Falconer series by Elizabeth May. This is a young adult series that is sort of like historical Scotland, Buffy with Fae. So our main character is a Fae hunter, and she also teams up with another Fae who, like, teaches her to hunt Fae, and I've heard really amazing things about it, that this is, like, better than ACOTAR, for example, and has similar, like, themes to it, but is much better. And Sarah Jane has finished the series and loves it, and so has Sean from Reader's Rambles, so I really want to get to it. The thing that has put me off for so long is that the third book is not available in paperback in this cover in the United States. I don't think it ever will be, because I read this first book, like, 2 years ago, So it's time to just get to it because I really want to read it, and I'm probably going to reread this first book again just to get re-immersed, but I do want to finish up this trilogy because I hear it's amazing. So that is it for the series that I've started and want to finish. So comment down below and let me know some series that you want to finish that you've already started. And again, like I asked in the last video, let me know which series you really want me to wrap up the most. Like you really want to hear my finished thoughts on. I'd love to know. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.